Hey, what's up? In this video, we're going to be running through Act 1, simulating a fresh playthrough, sort of. So, for instance, we're going to go to the Red Veil and kill the Rust King instead of just running straight through the Grim Tangle, even though we can, while showcasing and explaining all the different concepts you'll need in order to walk through the game as quickly as possible to navigate through any map in the game and save you tons of time, because moving through from area to area is what takes the longest. So this will help you get to the more fun parts of the game more quickly. The first concept is going the right way. As you can see here, all we did was walk in the direction that the entrance to the area is pointed in, prioritizing that direction's wall. So the wall is the circumference of an area. It's just, you can't go anymore. It's the wall. But the northeast wall in this case is what we were prioritizing, and that's exactly where the grow wood was, in the top northeast. That's the very first concept. That is the golden rule to going the right way, is to go straight ahead. And I like to imagine straight ahead as an imaginary line going directly forward from the entrance, and we'll talk about that later. The second concept are environmental tells. Now, in this area, you can see here that the realism in this game is actually really good, and that GGG put in certain tells in certain areas where, like in this area, the burrower's trail, always leads us directly to the mud burrow, and we can start a new instance and it'll be this exact same way. But that isn't in very many areas. That's in a way that's helpful, but when they are there, they're extremely helpful. So now we're in the Growwood. We're just going to go straight ahead, prioritizing the northeast wall, because that's where we're facing. We can't go anymore, so we're just going to keep going. We're going to look for the next northeast wall. And here we see the cauldron right there. Here's another concept, is the room or quadrant system. Major points of interest in Path of Exile 2 can never be directly adjacent to one another. They have to be one room away, essentially. And we'll talk about that more specifically in a second, right after we explain that just straight ahead, we found a major point of interest. It wasn't the entrance to the Red Veil, which is what we're looking for specifically, but it was the waypoint to releasing the hooded one. Now, I just wanted to go up left for a second, even though I personally knew that it wasn't up left, because there's no room up there. I don't know how to explain that concept, but if there's no room for a quadrant or a room to be, then nothing is there. You know what I mean? Anyways, here's the environmental tell for the Grellwood to get to the Red Veil as quickly as possible, is that if you find water, the Red Veil entrance is next to the water. So in this case, if we just follow the river here, we will find the Red Veil. And even if we run into like more forest and the Red Veil isn't like a little bit south, which it was in this case, we just got to keep going, because the Red Veil will be on the edge of the map. Here is the third concept we're going to talk about, is the difference between an in area and an out area. So an out area is what you see here on the map. And these will be on the edge of the map no matter what. They'll be on a far wall somewhere. But in instances like the Tomb of the Consort, in the Cemetery of the Eternals, or the Mausoleum of the Praetor, this area contains these two areas. So these won't be on the edge of the map. They'll be in an area like within the map itself. It won't be on the edge. It'll be in from the edge at the very least, even if it's just slightly. So in this area, it's kind of a crapshoot to find the three obelisks of rust, but if we just go straight ahead, we can't go anymore. We're just going to go southwest, and hopefully we'll find one of the obelisks of rust along the way. Yeah, so we prioritized walking southwest. We found the first obelisk of rust right there. But we just prioritized going southwest, and then we found a major point of interest slightly like inside of that direction, just by prioritizing the southwest wall. And we're going to continue to prioritize the southwest wall. Even though in this area, typically the obelisks are in a triangle formation, like one, two, three, or they're in a dot, like a sort of straight line curve, like 1, 2, 3, like that. In this case, oh, this one's tough, actually. There could be one in the bottom middle down there. There could be one there, but in this case, I think it's going to be in the middle here. Somewhere in the middle here. I think it's in triangle formation this time. And there it is. Lucky us, we found a triangle formation. And now we just, yeah, and then we fight the Rust King, blah, blah, blah. And then we found the waypoint in the Grellwood area, if you recall. So at this point, we're going to talk about space for rooms and quadrants. So we saw the hut over here. The waypoint's right here. The red veil's over here. We have all this space in the middle here because this whole edge is closed off. So we know that there's a boss arena for the Bramblegast and that the entrance to the Grim Tangle are both in this area. So if we find one, we can generally assume that it's going to need like one room worth of space in order to exist. In this case, I have a feeling that the Bramblegast is over here, and I have a feeling that the Grim Tangle is going to be straight down. And I know it's not close by the hut because it needs to be like one general room away. So I'm going to head like one room past the hut. I know it's not going to be in this area. And here's an environmental tell for the Grim Tangle. If you see a yellow mushroom like that, the Grim Tangle is surrounded by yellow mushrooms. And my guess was right. And here's that Grim Tangle. Alright. Now some areas like the Grim Tangle can seem confusing, but really it's just because you weren't going the right way and following the golden rule, which is just to go the way that you were put into the map. Generally, the imaginary line pointing the right way is this way, so we're just going to head that way. And in the meantime, we're going to talk about a little nuance of this area specifically, is that you don't have to fight the druid to get to the Cemetery of the Eternals. Almost always, like 95% of the time, it's not a rule, it's a general guideline that you can expect, is that if you see the druid, the Cemetery of the Eternals entrance is typically right behind it. Just right behind it. And it's really interesting how it works, but actually I just ran into it on the playthrough for this character where they were on opposite sides of the map, bottom right and top left. So again, it's a guideline, but here I know that this is the entrance to the druid fight because there's a checkpoint and yellow mushrooms, but the entrance to the Cemetery of the Eternals, which again, we're going northwest, we're prioritizing northwest, will not have the growing yellow mushrooms at the entrance. And here that is. Now, it wasn't directly behind it, but it was one room and then the entrance to the area. And you can see generally like this area is like one room. Like this is a corridor, small area corridor there, and it connects to this room, which connects to the boss room. It's very loose. The developers, GGG, did an amazing job at like hiding what's really going on. So in the Cemetery of the Eternals, typically along the wall that you go to fight Lachlan, you'll find one of the mausoleums. And here's where we'll talk about the fourth concept, which is scanning, which is the best way to go through endgame maps, actually. If it's an open area, scanning is always the best. Where you go up, it's basically like scanning a paper. I don't even know how I'm going to describe it, but anyways, here was one of the guidelines for this area. It's not a hard rule, but it's a guideline that on this front-facing wall, where you find the Grim Tangle and Waypoint to Lachlan, you'll generally find one of the mausoleums. But after that point, it's your best guess. It really is. It can be on either side. They can be like one room apart, but then adjacent to each other. And so I just scan. The second guideline for this area would probably be that they're on opposite sides of the right way. So there's like that middle point right there along the middle of this whole area. And you can see here the Tomb of the Consorts on the bottom side of that, and the Mausoleum of the Praetors on the top side of that. That's a guideline. I would say like 75% of the time that's going to work for you. Now, here's an interesting entrance. I already know this is going to be a complicated area because the entrance is facing an immediate dead end. Generally, though, we're going to head southwest because that's where we were facing, right? So we're going to look along the southwest wall, which is this wall. And here you can see it's ruined. So here's an environmental tell on the minimap. That's the boss arena right there. So I know that we just need to go towards that area generally. You're not always going to see that, and in this case, I would say guideline, you see it like half the time. This is a really weird area, but once you see a large square like arena in the Tomb of the Consort or Mausoleum of the Praetor, we know that that's where the boss is. So there, we found that boss. Now we're going to go over to Draven. Now, Asinia's tomb is like catacombs and corridors, but Draven's tomb is a big square. Every single time, it's just a big square. But generally, we're just going to go the right way, which is northeast. In this case, it's northeast. It's not always going to be northeast, right? I would guess, if I had to guess, yeah, yep. This area, it really is confusing sometimes. There's a thing called a four-way intersection that I call it in the museum, the Mausoleum of the Praetor. We haven't found it yet, so we can't exactly tell where to go. But I believe that's the boss arena right there. And there it is. You can, again, it was a large square area with kind of regal standings. Now, this was a tough area to kind of decipher, but almost always Draven's in like one of the four corners of the map. And you can see over here in the top, like the far left corner, there's not enough room there, and because it wasn't at least one room away from the beginning of the map. So it literally cannot be there, because it doesn't have one room of space in between the major points on the map, which is the entrance and the boss arena. So, and then we checked the top of the map, and that wasn't the right way. And so, following the golden rule, which is going the right way, which is northeast in this case, it had to be east because it wasn't directly north. It almost is always just that simple, and that's what was going through my mind when I was looking through this area. Alright, and then fight Lachlan, blah blah blah. The next area is the hunting grounds. Right. Now in this area, the 3 rules for this area are that all 3 things you're looking for, Crowbell, Freythorn, and Ogham Village, are all on the outskirts of the area, never in the middle. The ritual's in the middle, but that's optional. You don't really need to do that. But again, we're just going to go the right way. And there's actually an environmental tell in this area, and we found it. It's the road. You can actually see little rocks on the minimap as well. This road just takes us directly to Ogham Village. So if you're looking to speedrun through, or Ogham Farmlands, my bad. So now we're in Ogham Farmlands, just by following the environmental tell. Easy peasy. In this area, the hardline rule is that Una's hut is directly ahead. Almost always, you'll hit a dead end. I'm sure we'll hit a dead end right here. If we don't, then crazy. Since we hit a dead end, then we can show what to do next. We'll just want to circumvent this, but head back towards that imaginary like line. Always gravitate gravitate towards that imaginary going straight ahead line. And Una's hut should be right over here. And here it is. It's just straight ahead. Every single time, straight ahead. It can be slightly up or down from straight ahead, but always straight ahead. Again, always go straight ahead. And now, Ogum Village is just straight ahead. You just want to follow this road. This is actually an environmental tell. It's environmental storytelling. You see how the carts are all backed up and ruined? They're trying to get into town, because that's where carts go, is into town. So we're going to try to go to where they were going, which is, they were pointing in this area. And here's a hardline rule for Ogum Farmlands, is that Ogum Village will always be in this four-way like crop intersection, and it'll always be down left like this. Easy peasy. And now 95% of the time, it used to be a rule for me, now it's a guideline. The blacksmith is just right over here, and it's not going to take that much time to show, but blacksmith is directly left. Just follow this leftmost wall as soon as you enter. And there it is. This is the checkpoint to the entrance of the blacksmith. So to get Renly's tools so that you can salvage quality gear and socketed gear, that's always going to be really helpful. Now, this is the rare instance where the golden rule is superseded almost. It seems like it's superseded, but it's not. Generally, so the golden rules just go the right way. Just go the way that you're supposed to, which is straight ahead, which is southwest. It's south and west. It's not together. It's south and / or west, basically. But in this instance, we head west. It's like a rule for this area that supersedes the golden rule, is heading west. And you can see here, the executioner fight is actually northwest. But it is still west, but it's northwest. So individual area rules will always supersede, they'll always supersede like the golden rule, but only like halfway or part way. And we'll actually show that with Wrathbreaker as well. So we'll go just past Count and Geonor and into Act 2, and we'll show another exception to the golden rule. It's not really an exception. I would call it more of like a nuanced understanding of what the golden rule implies. But yeah, the rule for Ogum Village is that the executioner is always, facing up left or up right. So you have to go left and up, even though you're almost always facing southwest, which is down and left. Mana Ramparts. This is an interesting layout. 90% of the time for me, you go clockwise. Whether like you go up right and around clockwise, or you go down left and around, and like down left and around, which in this case, it looked like we were supposed to go up, but actually we were supposed to go down. So now that we're going down left, I know that it's still clockwise. It's a big circle clockwise. But here's another hardline rule for this area, is that if you follow the far outskirts of the map, you will always reach the Executioner's platform, which is right here. And this guy, he'll be interactable if this is your first time in this area, and he'll always drop a support gem. And then there's a checkpoint. If you're going clockwise, which we can see here that we did end up going clockwise, you typically start at like 5 o'clock and you typically end at like 1 o'clock. But the opposite is true. If you're going counterclockwise, you typically start at like 7 and end at like 11 o'clock. Anyways, if you're wondering how I move the minimap, it's with the arrow keys. And now we are in Ogum Manor. What to do here? Here's the best place to showcase the room and quadrant like thing. So let's go the right way, which is northeast. But in this area, we need to go one room past. We need to go one room like distance away from the entrance, and then we go like northwest because it's a set piece. So we went one room there, and now we head northwest. Don't even So I knew that this quadrant right here, we'll actually go back to showcase this, fuck up our speedrun timing a little bit. I'll go back to showcase this very specifically. But I knew as soon as I walked in, it could not be here, and the entrance could not be here, because that was too close. It needs to be one room away. This whole area is a big quadrant, and then it'll have a connecting corridor to an area that can have the set piece of where we're trying to go, which is across this bridge to look at the Count and the Mistress and the Beast. So I knew that that was the case. And also, another rule in this area is that the stairs down, if you're headed northeast, are always directly to the east, and Candlemas is to the northwest. So we're just going to head east as quickly as possible so we can get through this as quickly as possible. Here are the stairs. And in this case, same exact thing. I know that we want to go southwest, but first we have to go one room or quadrant past the checkpoint / entrance area. And now if we go southwest, we're going to find the corridor, which is just right there. I don't know if this is making any sense. I kind of sound crazy. I kind of feel like I'm babbling on low-key. Hopefully this is all making sense. Yeah, hopefully. And I know that in this area, either it's in the very bottom, middle, and this is a hardline rule for the second level of Augmenter, it's in the very bottom middle, or it's directly northwest of that in like an upper corner, kind of like the Executioner was in an upper corner. Yeah. So we're gonna go one quadrant, and in this area, it's pointing us directly to where we want to go. But I know it's not here because we're not one quadrant past yet. We got to go one quadrant, and then we go. And it looked like there was another connecting corridor, but now we go northwest, and it's right there. Okay, I don't know how else I can describe it, but that's that. Okay, so now we found the arena, we kill Count and Geonor, and now we go, I think it's Vestiri Outskirts, and I'll show you the exception to the rule of going the right way. Just like Ogam Village, Act 2. Just like Ogam Village, yeah. The area's specific rules can supersede most of the golden rule, which is going the right way. And in this case, Wrathbreaker is not... We have to kill Wrathbreaker. We're not actually going to the next area. We're killing Wrathbreaker, then going back to town, and then that takes us to the next area. That's very specific because, like I said before, the golden rule is for showing you major points of interest and area entrances, basically, and boss arenas. So in this case, we know that Wrathbreaker is in an upper corner every single time. Even in maps, when he's a boss in a map, he's still in an upper corner somewhere. So we want to prioritize the upper walls. However, in this case, this area was pointing southeast, so I'm heading southeast, prioritizing the upper wall. But as you can see here, we are turning back around. It's kind of crazy. I'm guessing Wrathbreaker, but you just have to trust. You just have to trust. Keep heading the golden rule direction, prioritizing the wall. We turned around for a full ass second and still we're prioritizing going southeast, which is the way we were pointing, the north, like the upper wall of going southeast. Does this make any sense? I feel like I'm crazy here, but look, we just found it without looking anywhere else, and we did it. If you want me to do Act 2, let me know in the comments below. Let me know if this was helpful. Let me know if there's something I can explain better. Just let me know. Hope this helps. Thank you for watching. Good luck out there. Stay safe.